Good evening, good morning, good afternoon, or good whatever it is, wherever the hell you are on this wonderful planet. I am Chris, the Atheist Pastor, and welcome to the first thing we're doing on the newly rebranded Hereticals channel. So it's the same as the same channel as the old Atheist Pastor channel, but someone in my house has got me on delay, and it's not me. That's a first. Sorry, I heard my own voice then in the background. It's never a nice thing. So so it's the same as the old Atheist Pastor channel. So it's the same link, same everything. But we've just rebranded it. And look, the reason is because when the channel started, it was because I was trying to get my voice out there, and what the channel's kind of evolved into is more of a community channel. There's more voices than mine, and I didn't think it was really, I thought it was a little bit egotistical just to name it after, I guess, my pseudonym. So that being said, tonight we have got Conspiracies, and we're asking the question about whether the moon landing was real or whether it was fake. So we've got Bobby, Mac, and Jay, who I'll bring them in. How are we, gentlemen?
Howdy, howdy.
Hello, hello. How's it going?
Good. Now, this is going to surprise everyone, but Jay will be saying that the moon landing was fake, and Bobby Mac's going to be saying it's real.
Today's opposite day.
Yeah. We're doing it just to upset Amanda in the chat. So Bobby Mac will be he'll be putting the case forward for it being the moon landing not being all that it seems, and Jay will be asking the questions why. And I guess, if anything, it's not a debate; it's a discussion. It's we'll see sort of how it goes and where it goes. I'm going to drop out and let these two have the chat. And gentlemen, take it away. Where do you want to start?
Oh, sorry. I don't mind. I thought we were on a bit of a time lag then. I don't mind. You can start first if you've got whatever.
Well, you're the best bet is probably let's start with your first reason why you think the moon landing is fake, and we can go from there.
Okay. My first one that I can really remember, I can't remember what year or how old I was, so it was the stars was the first one. That sort of made me have a little think about it. I was like, well, surely they could be. And then the Stanley Kubrick connection after watching 2001, I sort of heard a little bit about that, and then that made me, because I love Kubrick, so it made me sort of go down that little avenue. And then took it from there really. So, and then,
well, let's go ahead and start with the stars. The no stars being seen from the moon. It's just it'd be the same thing as if you took your phone and you tried to take a picture of the sky. If you don't have a long enough exposure, it's not going to get the light through. So that's why sometimes a lot of your cameras, they'll take a long exposure. That's how they'll get the light filtered in. Because if it's just a quick exposure, that light distance traveling isn't going to show up. So that explains why you can't see any of the stars on this from the pictures from the moon landing, is because the lens exposure wasn't long enough to capture that light. Like if you excuse me, go out and take a picture with your cell phone, you're not going to get it. But if you take a regular camera, set it to a long exposure, you take it from that same point, you're going to get the stars. Mm-hmm. So that's why you don't see any stars in the pictures from the moon landing.
So, I mean, there's a lot of pictures that you obviously do get from various moon landings that they've had over the years, that you don't seem to have any stars anywhere in the background that you can see. And also during the press conference that Armstrong, Buzz Aldrin, and Michael Collins did, Neil Armstrong was saying doesn't remember about seeing any stars, and sort of.
I don't know. Yeah. I don't know about that press conference. I hadn't seen that one.
Oh yeah, no, that's okay. But I mean, there's all the sort of normal ones that you get, like the flag moving. I can understand that because they are. I mean, there's easy ones that are easy to debunk. You can sort of say with inertia and stuff like that, it's obviously going to flap about. Blast craters sort of coming down. The footprint not the same sort of thing. But me looking into this now, it sort of answered a few of those questions, which I sort of weren't 100% on, but now it's sort of getting a little bit more sort of, they're just the normal ones that you tend to focus on.
Mhm.
But I'm looking at the spaceship as well. I think that was another thing that made me question it. I'm looking at the spaceship and I'm like, that really flew up there. Like, it was made of aluminium alloy, stainless steel, titanium, nickel steel alloy, and heat resistant glass. And I just think, how did that get through the Van Allen's belt with no lead shielding or anything like that?
I was wondering if you're going to bring up the Van Allen belt. Okay.
Oh yeah.
So with the Van Allen belt, yes, there is high concentrations of radiation in the Van Allen belts. But think of it this way: think of the people that run on hot coals.
Yeah.
Right. You know, as long as you don't stop, you're not going to create that thermal heat that's going to heat up your feet and burn and scald you. It's almost the same thing with going through the Van Allen belt. They're not in it long enough for it to cause the issue. Plus, the coating of the ship itself is going to put it. So they're basically, here's the Van Allen belt. They're coming just straight up through like this, just coming blasting through it. They're not lingering in the belt, which will cause they're pushing through it fast enough. It's not going to cause any issues. If they were to linger in the Van Allen belt, yes, they would have some problems.
They're there for about 2 hours. 2 hours or something like that, they were in there. But remember, I mean, there's an inner Van Allen's belt and there's an outer Van Allen's belt, and they both got different radiation factors between each different one of them. So to get through that, I've just sent a link up there, or Chris wants to put that up. There's conversations by NASA engineers and saying that they're not able to get through the Van Allen's belt. So that sort of still makes me think, well, can you get through?
I don't think it's a matter of not being able to get through the Van Allen belt. I think it's a matter of, is there any way to get not have to go through it to get to where they're going? Is there a way we can like bypass the Van Allen belt? I think that's more along the lines of what they're talking about. Because if I remember right, I think I know what you're talking about, where they're saying that they can't get through them. I think they're trying to. What they're actually talking about is trying to figure out a way like around them so they don't have to go through them. I think.
Yes. I understand that, but it's sort of it's hard to think that they were able to send up people through that without them. When you go to get an X-ray done, the people stand behind. I know that's because they get large doses of radiation throughout the course of the day, but that's only technically small amount from an MRI machine. This is going up. You're going up to like 10 or nearly 200,000 electron volts or something like that. Like, it's a ridiculous number, and it just seems just out of proportion to where.
Well, you got to also take into consideration, the suits they're wearing, the speed they're traveling through it, and the makeup of the ship itself. Each one of those is going to knock that radiation levels down. So they are receiving radiation. They're just not receiving enough to where it's going to be harmful to them. Like I said, if they lingered in it, then yes, they would issue. They're still getting the radiation. They're just not getting serious amounts that'll actually cause harm and cause problems.
Yeah, still, I don't know. To me, it's a tricky subject because it still seems like, I mean, you said about the suits. The suits are made of glass fiber, silicon rubber, and aluminium fiber. So them themselves weren't really that sturdy. So it's sort of, it just doesn't seem the makeup of the ship and their outfits seemed questionable about them being able to get through, even though nobody had ever been able to get through. Like, people had been able to get through that section before. Russians had got up there before with satellites and stuff like that, but nobody had ever been up there before. Like, animals and stuff that had gone up, and that's probably why pretty much 90% of them probably died, unfortunately.
Yeah, well, as I said, I'm not a scientist.
Oh no! I know, even am I, man.
From what I've heard and what I've seen, those are the reasons why the spacesuits themselves, the outer hull of the ship, and the speed traveling through the belts they're not lingering long enough for the radiation to cause any irreparable harm. So
yeah, I know. Yeah, it still seems a bit questionable to me. Unfortunately, I get where you're coming from. I totally do, but it just it's it just seems a bit of a ridiculous sort of thing at the same time. What was the other one I was going to say? There's, as I said, there was a funny clip. As I said, I'm going to be putting some links up. I want Chris to sort of see if he can link them, because it helps it if people see it and hear it as well, said by the person that said it. This one is Buzz Aldrin.
Sorry, really quickly. I'll do with the links is I'll actually put them in I'll put them in the description, because obviously no one who's watching this now is then going to stop watching this to go and watch something else and then come back.
No, that's what I mean.
So what I'll do is, in the description,
to get a better context.
all the links will be there. So if people are watching this, I guess not live or want to go back after, and then they'll be able to see them in context. So there's no drama sending it through. Really quickly as well, I was just going to say there is a poll on Twitter. I have put the link for the poll on Twitter in the chat. There was something we started a bit earlier. We've got 51 votes on it. Was the moon landing real? Was the moon landing fake? At this stage, Bobby Mack, unfortunately, 88.2% of people are saying it was real. 11.8 are saying it was fake, though. So 51 votes. So if you haven't voted in the poll, it is in the chat. That being said, I'm going to get out of here and I'll let you guys get back to the conversation.
No, yeah, it's just always something that has fascinated me, the moon. I mean, it's sort of something that people have looked up to since prehistoric days, and they've always wondered and always wanted to get to the moon, and it's always been that way, and that's where it comes in. It comes into the main consensus for what I think majority of people who believe that was fake, or even some of them people who think it was real, was between the Cold War. Obviously, that was obviously a big major factor. We had the Cold War and you had Vietnam going on, so it was a bit tricky for the American government to try and see what they could do to get the American people on their side, and also probably the world as well. So beating the Russians, like a month, I think there was like a month between when the Russians sent them up to when the astronauts actually properly landed on the moon.
I think with the race with Russia, I think it was because we weren't just racing with Russia. I think there was, if I remember right, there was 3 or 4 other agencies that they were all in a rush to, but U.S. and Russia were the leading ones, because they're the biggest countries. So I think that's why they are always the ones that get the big push for it. Yeah. But it was the whole thing with one of the biggest things that I've seen with it all comes back to during that time there was major conflict between the United States and Russia. There was, just with everything, and the Russians were tracking it. There's other countries were tracking it too, watching what was going on, and the whole thing, if the United States said they made it to the moon and the other country goes, no, you didn't, they were going to say something, because that's what the race was. They were trying to be the first ones there. So for Russia and the other countries to concede that, yes, the United States made it before we did, that right there should say, okay, here's a huge possibility that the United States made it. But the other thing on top of that too is one of the biggest issues with the conspiracy theory is the people that had to be involved with it. Yes, at some point, somebody would have leaked that this was 100% bullshit. We made this up completely. There would be, and then they would have to come back with backing evidence. Otherwise, you're none of the conspiracy theorists. The one big. Go ahead.
No, you carry on. You were.
Well, I would say the one big key to realizing that we actually went to the moon is the mirrors that are on the moon that the astronauts left that you can use and do your own experiments with to get the actual distance back and forth. Where you can actually get the laser, shine the laser, hit the mirrors on the moon, reflect back to give you the distance. That is the number one key to tell you that, yes, man has been to the moon.
Yes, don't get me wrong. Now, I was saying to Chris, like, being sort of I've changed my way of thinking a little bit. I'm still with the flat Earth stuff, but I'm changing my. I think the moon is something that we can get to, but I don't know if it's as far as it possibly is. This is what I've sort of doing a lot of research and stuff like that. I don't know if it is what it says it is, but I think the first mission, I don't think that was real. I think a couple of them later on could have been, but you see footage from them bouncing about the moon in later missions, and they're sort of jumping and they're skipping and they're laughing and they're falling over and stuff. Would you not tend to think that they would be a little bit more cautious with how they were moving about, especially if their suits were made of glass fibers? And
not necessarily. I mean, you got to consider that not only they were there, they were the first human beings to be there. So they're excited. They're happy.
Of course.
They're gonna goof off. But you got to remember too, though, they brought back like 300 pounds of moon rocks. They took samples. They did measurements. So they weren't just there jumping around and all right, get back on the ship and leave. They filmed them going, hey, look, we made it, yay! Now we got to get busy and do what we're here for.
Now, funny you said about the petrified wood. Did you hear about the story about when the Apollo 11 guys came back? They went on a world tour and they handed out pieces of moon rock, and they gave one to Holland in the 60s. No, I think it was 69. And after the guy they gave it to died in his 80s, it turned out to be a piece of petrified wood.
No,
so
I hadn't heard
where
that.
was that from? Yeah, that's true. Yeah, and also another thing that comes to mind for me is von Braun's connection to it. Now, again, that ties in to what we were sort of having a wee bit of a discussion with last week as well, with the Operation Paperclip and stuff. And something I hadn't heard before. I'd heard it. You right?
No, you froze for a second there.
Oh, sorry. So obviously you're aware of Operation Fishbowl.
I don't know Fishbowl.
Right. Well, I was recently a new aspect of it developed to me. I heard it was used to try and nuke the Van Allen's belt, the inner one. Don't know why. You know what I mean? Why would you try and nuke something that you don't know what it is? But that ties into my flat Earth belief, because that's also the belief that they were actually trying to blow up the firmament, and that's where they could have got some of the moon rocks as well. Well, not moon rock, but it could have been a material that could have been.
Right, sorry, Rob, I've had to mute you because your microphone's doing weird stuff.
You're in and out really bad.
So try talking.
Can you hear me just like that? Is that better?
Yeah, I can hear you fine.
Right, okay. I must have had my headphones in.
No, because what's going to happen is we're going to get the sound back.
The feedback loop.
Hang on, I'll try these again. These are the only headphones I've got as well.
That's right. It was only just started doing it, so it might just be a
the government trying to shut me down and get the truth.
Yeah, we've caught them out. Now, so you guys know, comments and questions I'll be popping up on the screen. So can you guys both see them when I pop them up?
Yeah.
I'm not on the other YouTube. I'm just on this one. So I can't read the comments or anything like that.
No, you should see them when I pop it up. So can you see underneath Jay at the moment the
it says Teddy Bogle?
Teddy Bogle?
No, I'm in the private chat on this stream one that we're on.
No, on the actual screen. On the screen.
Look right under me right here. It says Teddy Bogle. Can we get a source for the petrified wood?
Sorry, yes. I did see one of them. I didn't read. I missed it in the first one that came up. Sorry. Can we get a source for the? Oh yeah, it's out there. You can just type it in and it should come up. It went to the Holland Museum in 1969.
I'll find that and I'll post a link.
Okay,
I'm out.
Yeah. All right. I just Googled Operation Fishbowl real quick. I'll have to look into it some more. But from what I've seen, it just said it was high altitude nuclear test in 62.
Yeah. Was it to try and blow up the Van Allen's belt. You know what I mean? Because that's, what's that, 2,000 Ks above the earth?
Yeah, I'm not seeing that part, but like I said, it's a really long article, so I'm not going to go through it right now.
Well, I mean,
and look at
you've got the inner belt is about 200 Ks above the earth, and the outer one is maximum about 60,000 Ks. So then you've got low orbit in between that as well. So, and then I've seen videos of astronauts in the ISS talking about one day, hopefully they'll be able to get out the Van Allen's. They'll be able to, sorry, not the Van Allen. They'll be able to get out of low Earth orbit. So it's sort of, you think, well, if you're 200 miles above in low Earth orbit and 2,000 to 60,000 above the Earth for the Van Allen's belt, then it's sort of, it's little stuff like that makes me sort of wonder about it. So, did you find that petrified wood thing?
Godless Scummer put a link in the description.
Okay, good. What else was I going to say? Yeah. So, I mean, what about yourself? Have you ever sort of questioned anything about it yourself?
No, I haven't. No, because I when I look at things, I tend to look at, let me rephrase it. Now I try to look at more than one thing. When I was younger, I always took things at face value.
Mm-hmm.
But now, over the last, I got to give it up to my wife. The past quite a few years now, she's been helping me. She's helped me look at things more critically, where I'm looking at things in more. I'm not just taking things at face value. So yeah, I mean, even with that, I watch a lot of different things, like I said before, Red's Rhetoric and all them that I mentioned last week for flat Earth stuff. They also go into the moon landing stuff too. Fight the Flat Earth is good for the moon landing stuff too.
I remember you said about that one as well.
Yeah.
Actually.
So I mean, those for if you want to go ask like the scientific questions, like the Van Allen belts, and stuff like that, they're the one. They're look what they've got to say, because they're going to be able to explain it more scientifically than I can.
Of course, yeah. No, To me, I don't understand the science either, Jay. So to me, it's more of a logic thing. I think to myself, how is it possible?
Okay.
You know
well, with the possibility with that, I mean, if you're not going to take basically what they say at face value, if you want to look at it, the logical response, look up somebody. I mean, like I said, I just named just a few, but there's so many other out there. They will go through and explain the science behind it, and you can follow through it, and it'll show you, the logic behind why we can or why we can't. That's the best thing I can, without knowing the science behind it. It's kind of hard for me to go other than, speed, which is the biggest thing is the speed. Getting through the Van Allen belts is the speed, but also, like I said, their suits and the hull is probably going to be your top three things.
Yeah, as I said, it's just like what the structure was made of. I honestly think that the lead lining is a big issue for me. Why they just thought it was going to be a possibility? Like it was literally, oh shit! It was literally the cat's behind me.
I think you got a ghost in your room there with you.
No, I don't. No, it's my cat. I'll tell you off topic. I'll tell you a funny story. We got these two stray cats. We saved them from a goat farm. Right, they were going to be drowned, so we saved 4 of them, and we kept 2 of them, and we called them Willow and Kaya. And it wasn't until maybe about 8 months, a year later, we realized that's what the characters from the film Willow were called.
Oh yeah.
We didn't even realize until we watched it with the kids, and we looked at each other like, oh shit.
So now you mentioned the Kubrick thing.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. There's a little thing I had seen earlier that yes, it's a funny thing. It said yes, Kubrick filmed it, but he demanded it was shot on location.
That wouldn't surprise me. He was quite anal.
Yeah,
But because he just had 2001 the year before. He had obviously close ties with Arthur C. Clarke. Arthur C. Clarke had close ties to NASA. It's all these little connections that sort of just get my little brain thinking and thinking, what if? I wonder if the possibility that this is what happened. It might not have been what happened, but I just like having that idea and thinking, what if? Question everything to a certain degree. You know what I mean?
But it's okay to question, but the biggest thing with conspiracy theorists is when they question and they don't understand. I'm not saying you do it. There's just a lot of them that I've seen and I've dealt with. They question it, they don't understand it, therefore it's automatically fake. Because you don't understand it doesn't mean it's not real.
Yes, I know. Yes, I understand that. But
so, yeah. But anyways, going back to the Kubrick thing, the biggest thing with the Kubrick, the staging with Stanley Kubrick and whatnot, it would have been, from what I'm understanding, at that time, it would have been more expensive to film it fake than it would have to actually go to the moon.
I had heard that, but you wouldn't really think that. I mean, because you would have had to pay a lot of people off to keep everybody quiet. That people knew about it, so you could have think there could have only been 10, 12, 20 people that specifically knew about the inside details of the mission. Everybody else is compartmentalized down. And yes, it is a big thing to think of. But do you know what the Manhattan Project was? Yeah. So when that was being built, there was 135,000 people kept quiet about that, and no secrets got let out about that. Now, that's a lot of people to keep quiet, and that's quite impressive to go over the time period that it went over for before it was like from birth to completion. So, and that's, as I said, so that makes you sort of think how many people could NASA, the NSA, or the CIA, should I say, how
think of it this way: if it was filmed on a soundstage, it would have only taken one or two pissed off grips to ruin the whole thing, because at that time, your stagehands and stuff still weren't treated very well.
Yes, but I think on Kubrick, so I know he was a tough director, but I think on his films, and especially for something like this that I would have considered quite a classified operation, he would have had to handpick, or the people would have been chosen for him, even if they couldn't do the job. I'm not saying that would have been the point. He would have probably wanted more people that he had more of a relationship with to do the job for him. That's a possibility as well. You know what I mean? So yeah, there is a lot of, and then you've got all this symbolism and stuff like that you've got in The Shining and stuff like that. So there's heaps of weird references and stuff, and that was one of the things that sparked my interest for it back again in the I think it was like the late 90s or maybe early 2000s. I would say I watched that again, and I was like, oh, I'm going to look into that actually, and I sort of did a bit of digging, but internet was not really that good. I didn't really have access to a library because I was in the middle of bloody nowhere, back in Scotland, so it was sort of hard to get the information, but it was there, and it was just a case of having to look for it. But now, over the last few years, I've been getting back into it now, and it's sort of it's sparking my interest more in it, and I like sort of having a debate, you know what I mean? So, and having a conversation and that with people like yourself, you know what I mean? So it's good to sort of have two sides of a discussion like this, to have a for and against, you know what I mean? So we're not against, but like, well, not yet against.
There's a couple people. I know at least two of them are in the chat right now that would have been a better conversation piece for this topic. One is Godless Scummer. He knows a lot about this stuff, and the other one would be Amanda. The two of them would have probably been a better for the technical stuff that you're wanting to know, they might have
Oh,
been a
yeah,
better
yeah. No,
better conversation piece for this topic. Like I told Chris, I said I know some stuff, but I'm
neither
not
am I.
big
Neither
on.
am I. No, I know. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So
Then I just wanted to sort of, what do you sort of more? What do you sort of is your main debunking one that you tend to debunk, have to debunk a lot?
Freemasons and Illuminati are the ones that I am
No,
probably
I mean, involved with this. If you had to sort of, would you?
involved with the moon landing
Yes,
itself.
yeah,
Probably the thing that I would probably, well, the lights,
yes.
the
I was
no
going to say that
stars,
as well. Yeah.
and the well, you already realized, we talked briefly about the flag, but I mean, you kind of
Yeah,
figure out
that
how
I know.
that
Yeah,
works.
yeah.
The other one would have just been the fact that they claim it was made up in a sound studio. It's
Mhm.
just because there's too much. Part of the thing, one of the biggest tells for the video that is shot that it's not on a soundstage is the direction of the shadows.
Yes,
If
they
you
are a
look
bit
at the
sort of
shadows,
all over the
the
place.
shadows are all over the place, and that is due
Yeah.
from two things. One, the sun reflecting off the moon and the surfaces of the moon, because the color of the moon, it reflects the light really well. So the sun will come in, it'll hit a side of a crater, and it'll shine the light back this way. So that's
Yeah,
why
it's like reflections and
and then
refractions.
also you get what's called earth shine, which the
Mhm.
sun shining the light reflecting off the oceans. So you're going to get light coming from a different direction. That's why bouncing it and reflecting it back off.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
that is almost at that time. I mean, we can do it now, but at that time when it was actually filmed, that was almost impossible, if not impossible, to get correct. You know, to get correct to get the lights, because you're going to have light from every angle. And I mean, now we can do it now with CGI and stuff, with the computer graphics that we have now.
Mhm.
But the graphics, the computer graphics to do it, not only that, but the light technology to do it back in the 60s, it was non-existent. You could not have filmed that in a soundstage the way that they say the conspiracists tend to say, well, that was just filmed in a soundstage. They could not have pulled that off. It was impossible. We didn't have the technology to do it. We can do it now. We can fake the shit out of it now.
Yeah, of course, yeah. But you've
in the
got to
60s,
think.
we couldn't have.
But you've got to think about what technology they did actually have back in them days, if you think about it. So, like, I mean, there's stories about reverse engineering that they've been able to get from crashed spaceships, and then you've got to sort of look at that aspect of it. Have they used any of that before?
Mhm.
So there's all these sort of different. I had a point I was going with them, but as I was saying earlier on, I forget what I bloody talking about sometimes. What was I saying then about?
That's all right. Like I said, I got my favorite little thing that says I came, I saw, and I forgot what I was doing.
Yeah, I might have to get myself one of them.
Yep.
But yeah, it's like I was going to ask you that about actually a connection with the Freemasons. Do you think Neil Armstrong wasn't a Mason? I know Buzz Aldrin was.
Mhm.
Do you think that with the Masons' history, they would have more than likely put Buzz Aldrin first on the moon, so they would have claimed the first Mason to step foot on the moon? That sounds like something that they would have done.
Yeah, that if the Masons were behind it, you'd have thought they'd have put a Mason first.
Because I think there's yes, I know.
But
So,
and if you look at the mindset of those type of conspiracy theories, because those I know very well, they went, well, no, because they wouldn't want to show their hand. That's why they would have put the second man on there, would have been the one with the Mason ring and not the first. But at the same time, we've got them in the pictures with the Mason rings, and so they're there. But it's
yeah, because
so they don't want to play their hand all the time.
But then you look at that's one of the things as well. The book print doesn't match up. Like the bottom of his book doesn't match up to the bottom of the thing. But that could be a book that they put over the top of it to sort of change the look of that or the effect of that possibly. But you only see Neil Armstrong's suit out in I think it's the Smithsonian or somewhere in the museum.
Mhm.
You don't see Buzz Aldrin's suit or the feet of his. So you don't know if that was actually his foot or you know what I mean. And it's just sort of hidden in plain sight with all that sort of stuff. It's all the hidden symbolism. People will know what it means.
Yeah, I don't know. I said I've never heard the footprint didn't match. This is the first time I've heard that one.
No, you can look at that as well from his suit to the actual print. The print has got those ridges in it,
Mm-hmm.
and the boot that he's got in the museum is just completely flat. No markings or anything like that in it.
No, I was not aware of that.
Yeah, so yeah, so as I said, there's heaps of little stuff that sort of seem quite
Mhm.
easy to be debunked, but at the same time, they sort of could seem quite plausible in the larger scheme of things. And
Well,
I said,
think of it. Look at it this way, okay? Looking at your picture right now, I can say Bobby's got a dartboard behind him. Bobby's a professional dart player,
mhm,
right? Just logically, you're a professional dart player because you have a dartboard.
mhm.
That's not true that I'm aware of. I don't think you're a professional dart player, but it's that little thing that's what happens a lot of times is they'll find one thing that doesn't look like it fits and they'll
Hmm.
run with it. And they don't look in the context of everything else that's around it. So you just gotta you gotta, like I said before, you gotta look into the context. And like I said, that's the first time I've heard about the footprint.
Mhm. Yeah.
You know, that kind of thing. You know, that's one thing you'd have to look into more. Like I said, I have no clue.
I no, I sort of looked into it. Sort of the only explanation it gave me was that there was another boot that went over the top of that or whatever.
Which is possible. I mean,
Of course, no, yeah, that is plausible.
because
that is
if I
completely
remember
plausible.
right now, I'm not 100% sure, but I think they had a travel suit and an outside suit, and so I think the one that they may have in there is his travel suit and not his outside suit. But I could be wrong. I don't know.
'Cause I know the backpack itself was pretty heavy and bulky in that. Because I mean, you've got to try and think about what they would
Yeah.
have had to take in that. But then you sort of look at the lunar module itself. So they would have had two big, bulky backpacks on. They would have
Mhm.
had different suits, as you said, but they come down in a tiny lunar module that doesn't look big enough for three of them. But yet they've got all this extra stuff. They've got all these extra cameras on it because then you've got to think who filmed. Well, no, I was going to say there's a picture of like Neil Armstrong coming down, and they say that who took that picture. But I mean, you could say, well, maybe Buzz took that one because obviously Colin stayed in the poor bugger. He went all the way up there and couldn't even get out.
He was the one stuck in.
He was like
Somebody
the
had to be stuck.
loneliest man. He was the loneliest man in the universe. You know what I mean? So, or in whatever it is. But there's a good video of Buzz Aldrin, talking to this 8-year-old girl, and she says to him, "Why haven't we been back to the moon in such a long time?" And he sort of looks at her and goes, "That's not an 8-year-old question. That's a question I want to know. Why
Mhm.
haven't we been? Why haven't we been back? Why haven't we been back to the moon?
I can.
Because we never went." That's what he says.
I know. I know.
I've put
I
the
know
link
the
up there.
interview you're talking about. Yeah, I know which one you're
Yeah,
talking
and I'm
about.
like, did he feel bad because he doesn't want to lie to the little girl? You know what I mean? Like he was quite out there. I mean, they were like rock stars back in the day. They were all like test pilots and race car drivers. Apart from a few of them that were all pretty quiet, but they were all sort of like Neil Armstrong. After he came back, he went really quiet, sort of stayed out the spotlight. He did quite a weird sort of press conference not long before he died. Talking to this university somewhere, and he was saying a bit of the speech. I can't remember the whole part of it, but that's quite interesting to sort of look that up and look what he says about that. But that's the other thing as well that always sort of stuck out to me is when they came back during the main press conference, they sort of seemed a little bit. I know they'd been into space or whatever, but they sort of it didn't really seem. I know it just seemed that they were more sort of not embarrassed, but by what had happened, but just a little bit cautious about what they felt that they had to say, because they were all acting a little bit sort of not shifty, but a bit sort of like uncomfortable. And that was the one where Neil Armstrong said about he couldn't see any stars, and I think Collins and Buzz sort of have a little smile on their face, and Collins goes, "Yeah, I don't remember seeing any stars either," and then he just carry on.
Yeah, I know the I know the videos you're talking about. I don't know the context on either one of those.
So that,
I would have to watch those interviews.
Yes, well, that's why I've put them over there, because it's sort of stuff that you sort of, again, it's the stuff that you don't look for until you start going looking for it.
Now, are those the full interviews, or are those just snippets of the interview?
I think that's like snippets of the interviews, but you sort of go off what that main bit is. Yes, he can put some context on the end of it, but it's what he originally said in the first place. That's why you have to focus on that main context of it. So, I mean, I don't know if I've actually seen it. There was a mockumentary called Dark Side of the Moon, and it was basically, everybody thought it was like a real film, a real documentary with all these people, including Stanley Kubrick's widow, saying that the moon landing was fake. They'd all been told that it was actually a fake. It was going to be a mockumentary, and they were going to just do a piss take. But a chap they got involved in it, which I only found out doing this research, Vernon Walters was his name, and he was a deputy general for the CIA, and he was the only legitimate, actual high-ranking person that they had on there, and he gives a lot of information away, because I don't think that he thought it was a mockumentary. I think he thought it was a real documentary. So he'd been well retired by all this time. You know what I mean? So a lot of them had non-disclosure NDAs that they had to sign, and they weren't able to talk about it for 40 years, and most of them all died off. So that's why none of it comes out. That's why all this project disclosure stuff is coming out by a lot of the old naval guys and a lot of the old Air Force guys from seeing all these UFOs back in the day.
Yeah, I said that there's
a lot out there.
Yeah, there's a lot out there. I said I'm not. I wish I was more versed in this. I guess, but I can just. I for me, it's not something I really looked into, because I believe we went to the moon, so it's not one that I was like, okay, well, we didn't go there, okay. And I've paid attention to some stuff, you know, thinking that someday that might come back up. Here we are. But other times it's just like it
doesn't make any sense.
In one ear, out the other, kind of thing.
Yeah. Okay. So see,
that's
what I've tried to. I've tried to get rid of that sort of aspect and try to. To me, I'm thinking more clearly. I'm thinking more logically, because I feel like I sort of have a bit more of an understanding of stuff, in my opinion. Like, and with the views that I do have, a lot of the views that I do have do seem quite out there, but a lot of them are legitimate as well. Like, there's a legitimate sources for a lot of this stuff, but people have to go digging for it. Like, I don't actually use Google; I use DuckDuckGo.
No, I've never heard of that.
Yeah, I only heard about it. I've been on it for a few months. It's actually really, really good. It doesn't track you or anything like that. It's a good website. And I tell you what, I'm gonna change the subject here, right? If you don't mind.
No way.
There was when you typed in on Google about a month ago. I don't know if you ever seen this pop up, right? On Google, if you typed in TV, television, and film, okay, in Google, you scroll down a couple of pages, you would get images of children in bathing suits, stuff like that. Like, what's that got to do with TV, television, and film? But then you go on to DuckDuckGo, you put TV, television, and film in, and There's nothing like that. It's actually properly television film. And that got reported for child pornography. So that's why I don't even use Google anymore, because that gives you, their algorithm is set up differently to DuckDuckGo. And it is a better one. You do get completely different search results, I've noticed. So it's quite interesting, actually. It's a really, really good website. Sorry, Godless has just put up about the stars and the moon. Both the astronauts and the lunar landscape itself are bright lit by the sun. The sky may look black, but remember, this is in fact daytime on the moon. No, I am aware of that as well, Jeff. Like, it was lunar daytime. So I understand that there is going to be brightness coming off the surface of the moon, but again, it's never being up there and never setting foot on it. They didn't know what it was actually made of. Like, for years, everybody was under the impression it was actually made of cheese. So how did it could have been like Gouda, and they could have just sunk into it. Getting out when they're just like, oh, fuck, I'm melting. You know what I mean? So never have they done it. It's a big risk to take. And do you know how much they got paid? $20,000 for doing that. That's not a lot of money.
Back in the 60s, that's not bad.
Aye, but still, like, you're putting your life on the line here to do quite literally the unknown. So you're spending 3 days in space, like, cramped in tiny conditions, pissing and shitting, like, floating about. You know what I mean? I came across an interesting it's sort of called A Funny Thing Happened on the Moon, but it's quite hard to find. Now, again, I'll put the link up. It's about 1 hour and 40 minutes. Big documentary. It's got a lot of unseen footage before. And a lot of it does seem like the shape of the Earth. The conversations jump about a little bit, sometimes from talking as if they are actually in space, where they are talking about like things that don't make sense that they should be having in that conversation. And they've got clapperboards that are showing the date that they are supposed to be on the moon or something like that. Like, there's weird timing with this footage, and you're thinking, you guys are supposed to be on the moon by now, but you aren't. You are still in space. So, and the Earth just looks really weird, and obviously the full position it's got is of North America and stuff like that. It's got North America, South America, and then it turns the camera around, and the Earth looks round, but the Earth is an oblate spheroid, so this looks too perfectly round.
Well, I can explain that one.
So sorry, I'm just going to come in. Bobby, did you just say that the Earth is a spheroid?
No. The impression that the impression.
Sorry. I had to get that one in.
yeah. No, that's fine. That's what I was saying earlier on. Like, I'm changing my mindset, but I still think an oblate spheroid makes a lot of sense to a certain degree, being as in it's an enclosed mass. So,
well,
the
technically,
picture of the Earth that they were showing was completely round, whereas if the Earth's supposed to be an oblate spheroid, it's not supposed to look anything like that.
Well,
sorry, I interrupted you then.
No, two things. That's all right. It's the delay between back and forth between the United States and Australia. There's a delay.
Even my camera's got a delay.
Yeah. So, two things. One, technically, we are in an enclosed system. The atmosphere technically encloses around the Earth. So, yes, technically, we are enclosed, but not really. Second, we are the pictures look perfect circles. But they're not. You got to take in consideration how big the Earth is. It's going to be, with the size of it is, yes, it's going to look round. But if you actually measure it out, it's not round. You actually see where the middle is elongated out more. It's like if you spin a ball real fast. Like, remember the big red balls you had in school playing dodgeball?
Mm-hmm.
If you spin that real fast, it would kind of shrink down and get wider in the middle. That's what's going on. So yeah, it looks, because of how big it is, it looks perfectly round, but measurement wise, it actually is wider in the center than it is anywhere else.
In regards to that, when you're seeing the actual footage itself, they're zoomed in on it, and then they zoom out, and it just does not look real. It looks, I don't know, it just doesn't look real.
They could. Yeah, are you just talking about just off that one video?
No. Like this is. I haven't actually watched the whole video, but it's actually supposed to be. It's done by this guy that's got a bit of a bad name. Bart Seabrill, his name is. I said I haven't watched all the documentary. He was the guy that went up to Buzz Aldrin and asked him to swear on the Bible that he went and called him a liar and a coward, which I don't think he should have done. Like Buzz is bloody in his 80s, you know what I mean? So, but fair enough. Like if there wasn't an issue, I don't see why he shouldn't have put his hand in the Bible and just went, "Yeah, I swear, just get it out the way, done."
Okay, hang on just a second.
No, you're right. Carry on.
I gotta send this real quick. Because Raven asked a question. I think Jeff just answered it. Raven asked a question earlier, and I think Jeff just finally answered it for her. So.
Oh, what was her one? Did it come up in this bottom bit?
No, it's in the other in the other chat.
Okay.
Raven had said she believes we went to the moon. She just wants to know how they got it right on the first manned mission. She goes, everything was lucky. Where Jeff just come back with dozens of probes were sent to the moon by both NASA and Russia before 1969. Although there were many failures, there were a lot of successes. Thus, would give humans an idea about what the surface of the moon was like. So,
yes, but that can also tie into it was only ever satellites and stuff that they'd sent up before and probed and stuff. They'd never actually sent people up. They sent a lot of animals, but they didn't send people up. They didn't actually know what the possibilities of them going there. I mean, it was 240,000 miles away or k's away. I can't remember which one it was. So that's quite far to travel for 3 days, not knowing what's going to be going on.
Yeah, so, they took a huge risk. They took a huge risk because they easily might have not
made it.
Made it. Chris, scroll up. She was you typed in BTW. Hi everyone. Raven's comment was just under that. Sorry, Chris is like he couldn't see Raven's comments in the chat.
Yeah, I couldn't see. I've only seen a couple pop up.
Yeah, he found it.
Okay, there's a chap as well. I don't know if I put the link up. His name's Don Petty, Pettit, and he, along with other interviews that I've seen with NASA people, say that they either destroyed the telemetry that they had, or they've lost the telemetry data that they had. They've destroyed the technology to go back there because for whatever reason, and it's like, why would you only do it for 3 years and then stop? Surely it was something that you would sort of try and focus on. But just like, we've done it now, don't worry about it. Because if America had got there, do you not think they would have put a McDonald's or a Subway or something like that there, or Starbucks or something?
By now,
or a Walmart or something.
You get them corporate guys involved in it. Yeah, we could have a Starbucks on the moon in
there'll be a Walmart,
years.
a Walmart moon. There'll be a Walmart moon FEMA camp.
Yeah. From what I understand, with the telemetry tapes, they got all the data that they needed off the tapes, and back then those tapes were hard to come by, so they just reused that tape. They had all the information off the tape, so they just reused it. That's from what I understand. I may be completely wrong.
It just seems like something that you wouldn't want to lose, or you wouldn't want to tape over. Like, like quite an important, and it's also tapes as well of like recordings that had just been completely taped over.
Yeah, I think there was something to do with the specific type of tape they used for the telemetry. They were really hard to come by.
You think that would be something that would be quite celebrated and quite revered? You know what I mean? That's another thing that also comes to mind as well. Why there isn't a national moon landing day?
Oh yeah, politics, man, politics.
Like, that seems like such a massive thing. Like America was trying to beat Russia. There was like a 1-up on them, and surely they would have been like, "This is going to be a national world holiday." But I think there was like 54% of Russia didn't believe. Well, what did I do? My bloody note. 54% of Russia didn't actually get to see the actual landing itself. There was It wasn't allowed to be shown in Russia or China, and 1/4 of the population actually missed out on watching it. They couldn't get to watch it for whatever reason. So, but hang on, what's that? The reason there isn't a national moon landing is because it reminds people we haven't gone to Mars. Why not? Why haven't we gone to Mars yet? We should have been able to do that by now. Christ.
Yeah. Chris said Russians didn't see it because they were the enemy.
What was that? Sorry.
Chris put in the chat. He said Russians didn't see it because they were the enemy.
Yeah, no, they didn't want to see. But that was the thing. Like Cold
War politics.
Russia was smashing America in the space race. You know what I mean? They had they got some of the Germans after paperclip as well. Some of them went over there, and they might have got a few decent ones as well. Like it's funny. Like von Braun is always the one that came up. Like he was bloody getting in. He was in it when he was like bloody 20. You know what I mean? So making rockets and stuff like that. So he's quite an interesting fella and all that sort of aspect of it. But I think the Russians, that was why they obviously had for whatever reason, they would have had somehow the better technology. But a funny thing I found out was the same technology that they used in the Apollo 11 mission is the same technology that was used, I've heard, in a pocket calculator and a Nintendo Game Boy. The same, yeah, it's crazy.
Well, it really doesn't surprise me with the Game Boy. You think about, you're looking at 20 years of technology from the moon landing to the Game Boy. So that wouldn't surprise me if they were able to put the computing power they used in the space shuttle to get them up there shrunk down into the same computing power you could put in a Game Boy. I mean, you think about look what we can do now. Look what we can do now with a cell phone. You know,
of course. I mean, that's 50 years later. Like, so obviously technology is going to advance vast amounts, but you've also got to think, how far is technology ahead that we actually know of? There could be technology out there 10, 15, 20 years advanced to what we even know. Look at what Boston Dynamics and all that are doing. You know what I mean? They've got those dogs in Singapore and stuff like that, the social distancing robot dogs. Have you seen them? Have you watched Black Mirror?
No, I haven't.
Oh, mate, you got to watch that. There's an episode called.
It's on my Netflix watch list.
Yeah,
I have watched one episode. I watched the Prime Minister Pig episode.
Do you know a funny story about that? Actually, that in a kind of way is true. When Cameron he got the pig. He had to give a pig. He got a blowjob by a pig's head.
I heard it was actual based on something that was actually kind of true.
I know, it's weird, isn't it? Like politicians, yeah. That's another different episode, that, Christ. Weird, messed up politicians, Washington and UK politicians, and the fucking horrible stuff they're involved in.
Teddy Bogle said in the chat, in response to your space shuttle to Game Boy, he goes, think about the size of the Colossuses at Bletchley Park, and then now compare that to a modern laptop. I mean, you're looking at, what was it, 30, 40 years, something like that, between then and now. And we've gone from this much to, I mean, my wife's got a Surface Pro tablet that's damn near as good as my laptop, my desktop computer. And that thing's like this big. You know?
I mean, like, for those days, yes, the technology was there, but to what sort of certain degree did it actually live up to its job, and how safe and secure was it? You can test certain things so far, but there's always a limit to certain stuff, and unfortunately, sometimes you don't find that out until somebody dies. Now, an interesting thing to look into is actually Apollo 1, which was in '67. Now, that was actually going to have I think it was like a possibly simulation launch that went up there, and it actually exploded, and 3 guys were killed. Now that's quite interesting to look into as well, because there's sort of obviously the conspiracy talk that they had actually known, or one of them had known too much and had to get taken out of the picture. You know what I mean? So, and it meant all 3 of them had to die. But speaking about this as well, have you heard about the Challenger conspiracy?
Yes.
That's a bit weird, that one.
Yeah.
But there's like, you see these pictures like these twins and stuff like that. Like I don't understand that as well.
Yeah.
Like with the same names, and you're like, they do actually look similar. You know what I mean? But it's weird.
Yeah, you my buddy Jet Monk, the Drunk Monkey. Me and him actually have a channel. It's called Truth Is Not a Hoax. There's only just a couple videos on it right now. We haven't got back into it. He actually did a video on the Challenger disaster. Look into that. That's a really good one.
Okay. Does he bring that up then, or does he bring that up?
I don't know if he brought the pictures up or not.
But that's what I always think. Like, there's always. I mean, there's not always a. There's not always.
I need to address. Hang on, Bobby. I need to address something real quick. Jeff, Bobby does not believe that people didn't actually die.
Oh no.
We had this discussion before we went on the first time. He's not a tragedy denier.
No.
Okay, so because if Bobby was a tragedy denier, I would not be talking to him now. That was one thing I made perfectly clear before we started.
Yeah, but it is weird that you do see these sort of pictures, and it sort of makes you think, if that was true, then why would something like that happen? You know what I mean? So, but that was just talking about like spaceships exploding. So
okay, I'm sorry, Jeff. That's just that's kind of what it came off to me, because Jeff had said, please don't go into conspiracy theories where people actually died. So I may miss.
Sorry, Jeff.
Yeah. So
yeah. No, that's okay. That's all right.
But I look into the pictures some more, because a lot of them that say, "Oh, this guy looks just like him." The facial structures are similar, but they're off enough that you can tell they're two different people.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, that's what I just said. I'm not saying I believe it. I just said, have you heard about the conspiracy? That? Yeah. I didn't say I believed it.
Okay.
I'm just saying I have. No. As I said, it's weird stuff like that. Like, because you think, why would tragedy, disasters get made up? You know what I mean? What's the purpose behind it?
That is where you're getting into my realm of conspiracy theories, because a lot of the tragedy denier things, that goes back to people believing that the Freemasons and the Illuminati run the New World Order, and they set certain things up to happen so they can bring out new policies. Just like 9/11 and the space shuttle disaster, the school shootings, things like that. That is part of the New World Order agenda. So, and what they'll do is they say that they prime you with these certain things, so when something big and monstrous happens, it doesn't hit you as hard.
Yes, pre-programming to get you.
They're pre-programming you. That's where the whole tragedy denier conspiracy theory comes from. Is that where they think the New World Order runs everything? So they're priming us to do this. So they'll set up these fake incidences, and this one's fake, and you can tell this is fake because the number 33 is attached to it, or look, there's a Freemason symbol, or there's a pyramid, or there's a diamond shape somewhere. They're not quite right up to those kind of conspiracy theories. There's a screw loose that's just not quite. It just a little half a turn more, and you fix the whole thing.
Aye, but that's the thing in regards to that. I mean, there's so many coincidences between events and people involved in not just one-off events, multiple events.
Well, my favorite one,
lots and lots of times.
Yeah, well, here's talking about coincidences. There's one out there. There's a gentleman. I don't remember what his first name is, but his last name is Mason, and they say he has survived 3 terrorist attacks. Okay.
Oh yes, I'd heard about
what I'm talking about.
Yes, yeah.
I don't remember. I'm trying to remember. One was in Paris.
Yes. London. Yeah.
And then there was a third one
in America somewhere, I think.
Yeah, I don't remember where it was at.
Yeah.
But here's the thing: the one in London, He was there 2 days before it happened and left.
Mhm.
The one in Paris, he was 4 miles from the attack. And the one in the US, he was just like a couple blocks from it. So he wasn't involved in all 3 of those attacks. I mean, he was separated. So it's like, no, this he wasn't there. He didn't.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, I know. It's
but
just
they
weird,
say,
like,
oh, his name was Mason and he was around where these. No, that's pareidolia. You're looking
Oh,
into
no.
things that you
Aye,
want to see.
I don't think of it like it's like, oh, because his name was is Mason. I would think, oh, that was quite a funny coincidence. You know what I mean? So, but
Yeah.
I wouldn't necessarily think, oh, well, that's obviously something to do with the Freemasons, obviously because it's Mason. But I would never think, oh, that was a weird coincidence. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
well, that's
but
where
maybe
those.
it is, because a lot of this stuff could be hidden in plain sight. You never know.
Yeah, well, that's where a lot of those conspiracy theorists take
Mhm.
it, is because his name is Mason. He's part of the agenda.
But do you not think that there is some kind of underlying nefarious agenda somewhere
No,
going on in the world?
nope,
Not at all.
not at all. And I'll tell
Wow.
you why.
That surprises me, man.
No, and I'll tell you why. Because everybody knows that the rich run everything.
Hmm.
So right there will tell you that there is no underlying agenda. We already know what's going on. We already know that the rich runs it all.
Of course.
So the underlying agenda, it's a matter of how much money they're going to throw at something, whether or not it's going to get done the way they want it to get done.
Yeah.
So I don't think
Yeah.
there's a hidden agenda to bring everything under one world government.
See, I
might jump in here because we've gone over the hour. But what I'm thinking is one world government, new world order could be an interesting topic. Just putting it out there.
With the with the microchip implants and yeah.
to me, that sounds
considering
feasible.
something about microchips at the moment, I think we need to.
Yeah. To me, that sounds like it. To me, I know it might sound like I've lost my marbles, but to me, it sounds like something that could be a possibility. I mean, you've got to look into Bill Gates and the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation and their ties with the Clinton Initiative and what their ties are, like down to Haiti. There's a lot of stuff that's behind the scenes that it's something that you have to go looking for. And then you find out these agendas, you find out people were killed in Africa by polio after they got these vaccinations. There is there's heaps of so many to sort of discuss. And it's all out there.
I had just heard of that Bill and Melinda Gates thing yesterday, so I haven't looked into anything. It's the first time I heard it. I seen something yesterday, so I'm like, this might be something I need to look into.
Why don't we table this one for maybe next week? Because I have wanted to tackle New World Order, and actually Freemasons is one I can get involved in because I know lots about the Freemasons. I've actually researched them quite well, but maybe a New World Order or a look at that Gates Foundation and things like that, Clinton Foundation, all the
hidden agendas,
the World Wildlife Foundation. We'll look at them.
Red Cross. You know what I mean? You look at the Red Cross; they're asking for handouts at the moment. Where's all that money that got for the bushfires that didn't go to anybody, or very, very limited people got it as far as majority of people are aware of?
That was some bullshit.
So
there, but,
and now they're asking for more money. You know what I mean?
That's
all these big agencies. All these big agencies. They just want money. They just want power, and they just want control.
Yeah, probably.
That's all it is.
Yeah. So on that note, we might we'll
blast off
there. We'll blast off there. So tomorrow night, I'm continuing my conversation with Richard Madsen, who says that aliens are behind the Bible, and we're tackling the New Testament tomorrow. So that should be interesting to see what happens when a mythicist has a conversation with a Christian who believes it was aliens. So we'll see how that goes. Look, if nothing else, it's going to be entertaining. And then
do you want me to moderate again?
Mate, if you're available,
I'm available.
That would be good, and hopefully Math will be in the chat to translate Richard. for us all. But this Friday night, we've got a bit of a different six-pack. I'm not going to be on it. In fact, there's going to be no blokes on it this week. And for those who are not from Australia, a bloke is a guy, male. I don't know. Do you guys do you use bloke in America, Jay?
Yeah, sometimes.
Okay, cool. All right. So I've got to remember Australian terms aren't always global terms sometimes. So I'm not sure what is and what isn't.
It's going to be full of Sheilas.
Full of Sheilas, that's right. So it's going to be a conversation on the experiences of women in the secular community, which should be interesting. Manda Mama Atheist is going to host it. It's also going to have Jen from Jen's Little Corner, who's one of the regulars on there. We've got Susan from Divine Disbelief. Scientist Mel will be on. Lilith from Veritas Voice, and a very special one. My favourite guest this Friday night, Lissy Lou, will be on. She's she's making her six-pack debut. So for those who don't know, Lissy Lou is my wife. So I'll apologise in advance for any secrets she gives away about me. Hopefully the truth.
Wasn't Lissy on six-pack before?
She's got a foul mouth as well. Potty mouth on her.
You know what? She's in the next room. She'll come and whack me because you said that. But yeah. So look, it's there's heaps of stuff coming up. As I said as well. So we've kind of did a soft rebrand about a week ago from Atheist Pastor to Hereticals. So the channel's now called Hereticals. So if you're seeing Hereticals pop up and you don't know what it is, this is what it is. So thank you, everyone. I know there's a few people who have been here since the start. So for those people, thank you.
I haven't been reading the chat, so I don't know what's being written or typed or any questions. So sorry if I've missed anything or any hellos from anybody. Hello, anybody that knows me that's listening.
I put all the good stuff up. It's all good. It's all good. Sorry.
Before you take off, you want to screenshot my daily affirmation from Jace's?
Oh yeah, hang on. Have you got it there handy for me?
Yeah, I can pull it up real quick.
Yeah, quickly pull it up.
Yeah, Jace's daily affirmations.
Yeah. I'm actually tomorrow. Look out because I've actually got a bit of a plan with that picture.
Oh, do you?
Oh yeah, yes, I do. Don't you worry about that. And hello to Jen. Jen, you've come in a bit late, but that's okay. We still love you.
So have I changed your mind in any way a little bit, Jay? You're going to sort of have you sort of made you question a little bit?
Changed my mind, no, but brought up stuff I didn't know that I'm definitely going to want to look at. So
there's a lot out there.
Jace's daily affirmation: be kind to all those around you because you never know when you're going to need a bum of smoke.
Amen to that, brother. Amen to that.
In the UK, that's called bumming a fag. Now that's got a different meaning in other parts of the world.
Yeah.
Can I bum a fag off you?
Yeah. Well, my favorite one, we had a guy from New Orleans on the ship, and he come up to me one day. He goes, "Dude, can you spot me a bliffer?"
A bliffer?
Yeah. That's what I said. I'm like, "Oh, what?" He goes, "A bliffer, smoke." I'm like, "No, I've never heard it called a bliffer."
But I'm going to give you one because that's the first time I've ever heard that before.
That works. All right. So on that note, I will end the stream there. So
thank you, Jay.
For everyone who's been there, thank you. Thank you, Bobby Mack. Thank you, Jay.
Cheers, guys.
Always a pleasure. So good evening, good morning, good afternoon, and good whatever the hell it is, wherever the hell you are on this beautiful planet. See you all later.
Be water, my friends.
Bye. Ciao.